Hi, my name is Morgane and I'm a PhD student at the Netherlands Institute of Ecology. Today I will briefly tell you about my PhD project, which is part of the Epidiverse network. So, imagine yourself as me, a scientist, and one day you go out for a walk during an intensive drought period. It's been very hot for several days now, and no rain is predicted to arrive anytime soon. While walking, you land upon two different plant species, and you clearly see that the heat has affected these plants very differently. One of them has clearly handled the heat and the drought really well, while the other has suffered quite a bit from the harsh conditions. As a scientist, you of course start asking yourself some questions. Why do some plants seem to be doing fine in these harsh conditions, while other plants die from it? With the climate change we are experiencing nowadays, ecologists are extremely interested in how a change in specific environmental conditions, like an increase in temperature, might affect a species and how the species will adapt to such a change. In the case of this Epidiverse network, for example, many of the projects are interested in seeing how epigenetics plays a role in this adaptation. Indeed, numerous studies have shown that a change in environmental conditions induces different reactions in different species, yet they are not answering the question of why one species may react differently compared to the other. This got me thinking. Perhaps to answer the question of why, we may need to take a step back and not look at what a plant looks like after a stress, but maybe focus more on what a plant looks like before a stress. Perhaps understanding what makes a species different is a first step in understanding or even predicting how it will react to a change in environmental condition. When you look at all the different species in the world, it's obvious that not all of these species live in the same way. For example, there are clear differences in how they reproduce, how many offspring they have, how fast they grow, or even how long they live. They have what we call different life history traits. These traits are important for species to survive in their environment and introduce offsprings. When we look at plants, we see that some can reproduce by producing identical individuals named clones. This is known as asexual reproduction. Other plants will reproduce through sexual reproduction, and like humans will produce individuals that are different from one another. We even have plants that can do both. And so here we can classify plants based on the reproduction trait. We also classify plants based on traits such as flowering time, or even whether a plant is annual or perennial, for example. And so perhaps when studying plants with a particular trait, we might find that they also possess specific natural epigenetic patterns, which are specific to these traits. So when two species are exposed to a stress, perhaps the reason why they react differently to a stress is because of their traits, and thus in part because of their natural epigenetic patterns. This could not only induce differences in how they react to a stress, but also could impact whether or not their future offspring will be later able to face that specific stress. Thus, by finding out whether or not a specific trait is linked to a specific epigenetic pattern, I hope to be able to answer the question of why plants react differently to a changing environment.